was so fascinated with the Bitcoin blockchain and how it was built that I said, okay, I want to become a blockchain developer. I was approached by a gentleman who wanted to build one of the very first coin exchanges in Ghana.
Developers have the power to change the world, even more so than a doctor who's confined to a hospital.
You have to care about it all because, you're the architect of the entire platform. As a developer, you need to be a doer. Be an impressor, never a stressor.
I'm Ade Molajo, and for 10 years, I worked as a digital transformation consultant for some of the most prestigious firms in the world. And then I made the jump to AI and Web3 as an ecosystem builder. I quickly climbed up the ranks, became an expert in the field, and built a solid network. Join me as fortnightly I speak to some of the most interesting minds in this innovative space on what it takes to have career success. Whether you're a newbie or you identify as an industry veteran, I will help you level up your career. This is AI Web3 Careers Podcast with me, your host, Ade Molajo. And today I'm joined by Olu Akinwande, who is a blockchain developer and founder of Montech Studios, which is an enterprise software development firm that has launched over 30 plus projects on a multitude of networks. We're talking Ethereum, Celo, Polygon, Hedera, XRP, Flow, Avalanche, Sui, One, and it goes on. This is such an amazing roster. You've got some heavy hitters here. Olu, the first question for me, and by the way, thanks for joining me for the first episode of this podcast. My first question to you is, how do you land so many big names in the Web3 space?
Oh, thank you for having me. But that list took a lot of time to to work with all of those foundations and
I can imagine.
Teams. So early on, it wasn't like that. It was maybe one or two of those. When I say early on, maybe about 5-6 years ago. So it's definitely been curated over about 8 years of just a lot of developers, a lot of hard work, completing those projects. So it wasn't overnight at all. So I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah. So do you do your own business development?
So I do have a business manager who steers that direction. I primarily like to focus on the tech, delivering for the clients, making sure that they're satisfied with the customer service, making sure that we meet our deadlines, and also scopes of work, and just kind of following orders and procedures, UI UX design, reiterations, and so that's primarily what I like to focus on. But I do have a team that manages the biz dev, and that's how we were able to get so many different networks on board. So
Exactly. Yeah, I think there's definitely some value in knowing what you do best and sticking to it, and have other people who are great at other things do just that. So off the back of that, I want to start with a hot topic, and it's something that I know a lot of developers in the AI and Web3 space are thinking about. But do you believe AI will ultimately replace human beings, or will it enhance and complement their abilities?
So, for everyone because I've encountered this question multiple times, and AI cannot replace a software developer. So, if anything, a developer will be the conductor of using AI with software, because from my experience with AI, you can create some components, but if you're talking about taking a full smart contract platform, having AI create the smart contract platform, create all the components, you may be able to compartmentalize it and build it, but it's no build me a enterprise level application and you just put a few prompts in. You would literally have to conduct multiple queries, and you would still have to develop, but you would get multiple pieces of the puzzle. So an AI can create a smart contract, but it won't create a perfect smart contract. So you as a developer still need to use your skills to communicate with the AI to make sure that functions are safe. Are they using pre-audited contracts? Are you giving the AI? Are you giving the AI Open Zeppelin contract to work with first, or are you just expecting it to So there's always going to be that curve there where you still need to be, very intelligent. You still need to be well versed in blockchain and whatever you're developing before you can just AI build me a one-of application right now, one click, So I don't think it's going to get there. It's probably going to get there, but developers are always going to be the conductors of that kind of experience. So no,
absolutely,
yeah. So jobs are safe for developers. So
Yeah, that's good to know. And you mentioned an Open Zeppelin smart contract. Could you elaborate on that for anyone who's looking to get into the space and trying to learn the lingo?
Okay, so Open Zeppelin is a platform that offers pre-audited smart contracts. So and they're open source. So it really allows for developers to build with safety in mind without having to go to different firms and get audits done. And they've built up a very large library of smart contracts that anyone can use and be able to deploy safe applications without too much fear of getting hacked and losing funds
So after you deploy something with an Open Zeppelin smart contract, would you recommend still going to the Peck Shields, the Certix of this world to get it properly audited, or is it fine because it's already been audited by Zeppelin to release it to the public?
So that's a very good question, because sometimes you need to give your consumer base peace of mind. And most times, even if you are using a open source contract, you would still get an audit just for due diligence, just to make sure that everything is safe, which it most likely is, but it does show a level of due diligence that you are doing. Even though we did use a safe contract, we're still going to get it audited, especially if you make any sort of alterations to it. To the smart contract, an audit is definitely in order.
Exactly, because you've essentially remixed it with your own app-specific code, and it's going to look quite different from what it was when you just took the boilerplate from Open Zeppelin.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and I guess a question that would be on a lot of the viewers and listeners' minds is, how did you get into Web3?
Oh, so very long story. So I was in an entirely different career. I was working in healthcare, and the very first time I, just even interacted with anything Web3 related was Bitcoin. It was, I think the very first Bitcoin I ever purchased was $800, and it was such an elaborative process just to even buy. There were just peer-to-peer networks at the time, so there was only platforms like Local Bitcoins where you had to put in a request, go to a bank, hold up a little sign of your ID and the amount that you deposited into that specific person's bank account. They would then verify it, your wallet address, and then they would release it to your account. So now, people are able to buy Bitcoin in one click on Coinbase and all these centralized exchanges. But that was my very first experience. And so not really thinking of anything as a blockchain developer or building anything, but just really more from speculation. Coin is the best thing since sliced bread. It's going to make everyone millionaires. And so that $800 Bitcoin is sitting pretty right now. So
I can imagine.
So it started there. It started with that, and I've been through the entire. I think I've been through 4 bull markets, 5 bear markets, just over, and I've experienced all the pain crypto has to offer, and all the joy crypto has to offer as well. But once I got past the speculation, I began to look into the communities, the networks. And in 2016, nothing was developed. Some of the top currencies at the time are nowhere to be found today. They were even hard to buy, but from there, let me see. So while I was still speculating on cryptos, I was still in my previous career in healthcare. Really didn't enjoy it too much, and I was looking for something new. And I was so fascinated with the Bitcoin blockchain and how it was built that I said, okay, I want to become a blockchain developer. Like I want to be able to build stuff like this. But I wasn't even a regular developer. So I said, okay, all right, like first you got to become a regular developer and then you can, become a blockchain developer. So I went to this school called Coding Dojo.
Oh yeah.
And Coding Dojo, amazing program just for anybody who's really looking to, make a career change. I think the program was, maybe around 12K. So it was a very huge commitment for me at the time. I was unemployed. I lived in that building. It was in Tyson's Corner in Virginia. And the program was about 4 months long, and I was there for the full circuit. Learned Java, learned JavaScript, learned Python. And from there and that was where I developed my base development skills.
Wow.
And then from there, after the program was when I began to take Udemy courses on blockchain development very early. Like this had to be late 2016, early 2017.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So it like no one knew everything at the time. Everyone was kind of scrambling for information, trying to learn how to get the leg up. So for me, it was so then after Coding Dojo, I was learning blockchain on Udemy, and from there, I was approached by a gentleman who wanted to build one of the very first coin exchanges in Ghana.
Okay.
This was early 2017, and I was so familiar with the Bitcoin SDKs and all of the materials that were out at the time. And I said, hey, you know what? I can build this for you. So it was a 3-man team, myself, a front-end developer, and a back-end developer, and we were able to build one of the probably the very first regulated Bitcoin exchange in Ghana. So that
How about that?
It was a 2-year experience, but the craziest experience of my life. So
Yeah. Amazing story. And I guess we all had to start from somewhere. And I also started as a speculator, also in 2016 actually. And then it was after I did some work with the consulting firm I was working for at the time that I then got poached by this VC firm who was looking to invest in early stage chain projects. And that's how I got my first full-time role in the Web3 space. But moving on from that, because you did mention you were in healthcare before, and some argue that developers have the power to change the world, even more so than a doctor who's confined to a hospital. With you as a developer, the internet is your playground, and from there you can reach everyone and anyone in the world. How would you say that you manage to keep sort of an ethical sense in what you're doing in the Web3 space when you're doing your development?
The main thing I think a developer should always take into account whenever they're building a product is always, does this product have a chance of doing something malicious to a user, like withdrawing funds from their wallet, possibly having their data used in illicit ways for a malicious intent. These are kind of two of the main kind of issues that developers need to kind of look out for. But as long as your software doesn't have any inherent risk to the user, it's very hard to kind of have that malicious intent as long as you're kind of not doing those two things I mentioned. So
Now, I've got a confession to make. The novelty of working from home has slowly started to wear off. When I want some flexibility in my workspace arrangements, I head to WeWork. Join the vibrant community at WeWork and enjoy 1 month free on new memberships. This is perfect for professionals in the AI and Web3 space. Their flexible workspaces offer the ideal environment for collaboration and growth. Don't miss out. Claim your free month at WeWork today by clicking on the link below my YouTube videos, or simply heading to ademolajo.com and navigating to the resource section.
The main thing is because the developers are usually working for someone else, so those ethical kinds of builds are really dependent on who they're working for and the values that client has, because most developers aren't in a position to essentially, like this self-sovereign developer who's just out building products on his own. Most likely they did very well in something else, and they're able to take that. But most developers are, looking for stable income. They're looking for a high-paying job and looking to advance their careers.
What do you say to people who say, "Oh, I'm all about the blockchain. I don't really care about the tokens." What do you say to those developers?
Well, you have to care about it all because you're the architect of the entire platform. Like not caring about the speculative and the pricing is fine, but just understanding more about the utility of tokens, understanding the use case of tokens, because tokens are in 2017 a token was, or 2016 was simply a speculative asset. There really wasn't much utility in the market. By 2024, we're talking about tokens now that have high utility within the network, that have massive upside as far as speculation, but massive use cases within the networks. And that's what I think that by the time we get to 2025, we're gonna see a lot of these networks really mature, and then we're gonna see like, wow, okay, this is what a blockchain network's supposed to be, with massively high token price, simply because of the utility that they offer, less speculation, but simply because the value that token provides within that ecosystem to, let's say, a bank or a firm or an enterprise company, elicits that value. So
So don't say Ethereum, but in your opinion, what is, outside of Ethereum, what's the network with the most promise in terms of utility?
The network with the most promise. There's a lot of networks with a lot of utility based around their token. I think post 20, a lot of tokens really just got away from the speculation side and said, okay, how does our token fit within our community? I think that one of the strongest ones is XRP as far as the utility of the token. It hasn't been fully realized in the market yet, but with what they're doing with cross-border payments, the market that they're going after, I think it's a $250 billion market. A quadrillion, I can't even count that, but that's over $1 trillion. So, but the utility that they offer in that market, I think that that's one of the best utility use cases in the market today. I think that another network like Quant, they're doing a lot of cross-chain interoperability. So things that solve a massive problem, and then tokens that allow for multi-chain use cases, cross-chain use cases, are probably some of the highest utilities in the market now. I would also just add in, some decentralized exchanges, because they're able to provide liquidity and make exchange fees. Those tokens have massive value. We've seen dexes like Uniswap go from a few cents in their token price to over $10. So utility is here to stay, and once the utility, and once the utility market really gets going, I think you're going to see a massive separation in utility tokens from the speculative tokens, and I mean massive price differences. So
exactly, and just so everyone knows, we have a member of the XRP army here. Actually, Ripple didn't pay him, or maybe they did pay him to say all this stuff.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. But
just kidding.
I did get a chance to meet David Schwartz, and that was an amazing experience. Just talking with him about what they have coming to the ledger, AMMs, and if we even think back to what AMMs did for Ethereum once Chainlink really got going, and Chainlink really created a decentralized finance. So shout out to Chainlink, and also the other companies that are following Chainlink's model and what they're doing with CCIP, and just really growing, so absolutely. So those are some of the utilities that I love: Chainlink, XRP, Quant, anything that has massive utility, because the speculation is going to kind of fade to the background, and utility is just going to come to the forefront, and take over the markets, in my opinion.
That's right. I couldn't have put it better. We are running out of time, so I'll get to the last few questions now. So in your opinion, Does experience trump technical ability? Is it
Ooh.
better to have the soft skills that you've built up through the years, or is it better to have the hard coding experience, the hard coding ability?
Oh, so at Montech, I've worked with probably over 100, 200 different developers, and whenever we would have our in-house meetings, I would, every developer would have a 3-month period where we would just classify them. So we would classify them as a impressor or stressor. So like you were either in one category or the other. So
Yeah.
and the thing that I found with impressors were doers. Impressors, even if they wrote something wrong, or
Yeah.
even if they didn't do it correctly, they were constantly pushing, they were constantly working. Whereas the stressors were always asking a lot of questions, which is always good, but never really taking the action. So an impressor is
Yeah.
a doer, and a stressor is someone who's kind of more of up against the fence, doesn't want to add to the code base, kind of a little bit more apprehensive.
Yeah.
So as a developer, you need to be a doer. You
Yeah.
need to be someone who is someone who's taking a lot of action. You don't want to be a developer who always ask questions, always get clarity, but you
Yeah.
don't want to be hands off, kind of. I don't
That's
want
right.
to make a bad push,
Yeah.
but
Exactly.
so that's how I kind of see it. But always be a
Yeah.
doer as a developer, because action is the only way that code gets written. If code doesn't write itself, and you need to
No.
really even if you're pushing things that aren't right, or maybe need to be refactored, or maybe need to be reassessed, just being someone who's a doer can get you a lot farther than someone who's, I've been studying this, I've been
Yeah.
looking at a lot of code, I've been, it's like, okay, what have you done? What's in your
Yeah.
portfolio? What are your hard deliverables? A lot of times
Yeah.
I say, you want people who start sentences with, I completed, I finished, I've added, I've pushed, starting sentences with those kind of phrasings, rather than I had a meeting, I talked to, I went to, I'm almost, so like these kinds of, so like you see the difference between an impressor and a stressor. So for developers, please be an impressor.
100%. 100%. And like the whole point of being a developer is to build, and you can't build if you're not doing. I think we should leave the questioning to the researchers who do a very important job in the Web3 space, but that's not the job description of a developer.
Exactly.
And lastly, question to you, my final question for this episode is, for those who are looking to get into the space, what advice would you offer them for entering the space of Web3 and AI?
So what advice would I offer them? Let me see. For someone who's not a developer, no kind of experience, let me see. I would say is be easy on yourself. That would probably be the very first thing, because it's a lot of information to consume.
Yes.
But I would say create a plan, because if you don't have a plan, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. So what aspect of AI really interests you? So for Montech, when in 2023 or in 2022, when all of these AI websites were coming out, we populated a list of every single website, and we just went through the use cases, and it's the first piece of advice I would offer is look at the landscape, look at all the products that are out there, see what everyone is doing, ask a lot of questions, and then from there try to find your space as far as where you want to kind of make your impact. Get into a lot of Discord communities, talk with developers, see what they're building, and when you get into these communities, these guys are excited. Like they love, talking about their issues. They love talking about, overcoming errors in their code, sharing the errors in their code in the group, and having multiple developers help them troubleshoot and, get past it. So find that community that really resonates with you. and that are there to kind of help you build, but also educate yourself. And sometimes it could be taking a course, sometimes it could be going to Coding Dojo like myself,
Exactly.
taking Udemy courses. So, so those kind of two things are probably the first. First is look at the entire landscape of AI, go on YouTube, watch a few YouTube videos. Don't just watch because a lot of people will just end up just watching. So then people will only hear the YouTube part. Oh, just go on YouTube. No, go on YouTube, look at a few products, get into some Discord communities, and then from there, look at the entire landscape of AI, the entire landscape of blockchain. When you're looking into blockchain, look at all the different categories of blockchain: DEXs, centralized exchange tokens, utility tokens. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Real world assets, which is a primary narrative. Hey, like what is a real world asset tokenization? Let me kind of figure out what they're doing with bonds and so there's a lot to kind of uncover, but it's really having that explorative mindset, that adventure mindset, that growth mindset that a lot of people talk about. And start there, but always be a doer, never always be an impressor, never a stressor. So
exactly. Olu, thank you so much for joining us on AI Web3 Careers. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for today, but it's been a pleasure and I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. I appreciate you too. Thank you, Ade.
Thanks.